Welcome back to The Price of Business. I'm your host, Kevin Price, talking to you about you and your business, and always delighted to have on the program my good friend Chris Kidd, and he's with Chris Kidd Enterprises, and he's a financial coach and money man and a regular contributor. Some of the funnest interviews we've done over the years on the Price of Business show have been segments that you and I have been able to do, Chris. It's been really awesome, and it looks like it's going to continue with our show today. Before you introduce our guest, though, tell us a little bit more about what you do.
Well, being a financial coach, I help people with a number of financial issues, whether it's, getting out of debt, learning to manage your money in better ways. Sometimes it's with investment things, trying to understand how they can be better investors, if they're managing their own or if they're using an advisor, how can they get more out of their advisor by, if you can increase your knowledge, then you can do a whole lot more when you're working with somebody else. Mm-hmm. And there's the entrepreneurship side as far as, starting businesses, taking something that somebody is kind of passionate about, something they enjoy, but they don't really know, how to create something out of it. So one of the things I do with a lot of my clients is help them turn something into I really like multiple streams of income, and one of the best ways to do that, especially if you already have a day job, is creating businesses on the side. So,
Yep, there you go. And tell us about the guest today.
Well, my guest today is really, really interesting because it's related with youth sports, and we know that the world of sports is a huge market. And coming from a sports background myself, and my dad being a coach my whole life, I really love this area. And he's right in the middle of the youth sports area, which is actually a $7 billion industry, and we'll talk more about that. But my guest today is Joe Fitzpatrick. He's with the New England Sports Village, and it's a pretty amazing development that they're working on out in New England right now. So we'll let him tell us a little more about it. Good to have you on, Joe.
Hey, thanks a lot. Nice to be on. Nice to chat with y'all. Appreciate the kind introduction. I can give you a little bit of background. So, Chris is right in that the youth sports space is sort of bigger than ever, and I think there's a lot of different reasons why that's occurring. But particularly up in Massachusetts, I think there's a couple of key drivers. And the first one is that there's sort of a facility cycle, meaning that most of the youth sports facilities, even across the U.S., but particularly in the Northeast, were built before I was born. I'm 43 years old. I got 3 sons, and most of the places that my kids play at were built before me, and I played there. So, there's just a natural demand cycle where these have to be rebuilt. Municipalities and government agencies really don't want to do it anymore, so they're moving to private development. In our case, we got very, very fortunate. We had a town that had 140 acres of land that was adjacent to Route 95, which is the major thoroughfare from Providence to Massachusetts. And they had built a $7 million road to stimulate development. And they originally wanted it to be an industrial park, which didn't make a lot of sense. And they wound up sitting on the land. And then they found out about our concept, and the land was just perfect. And we got it at a really good basis. And we started developing this, what we call the New England Sports Village. And it's basically, a massive campus, like a college campus for youth sports, all the way up from when you start. We have some colleges that will play there. Not D1, not those type of facilities, but a D3 school, Johnson Wales University out here the hockey team will be there. We have a junior team there. And then it goes all the way up to, we'll have professional athletes that train out of there in the off season. So, we designed it as, it's a very diversified space of sports. So we have an ice arena that has 2.5 sheets of ice. We have an Olympic Aquatic Center, which is a 50-meter pool, which will be one of only 5 in the Northeast in New England, which is great. We have a hotel that we're building on site, and then we have a field house that's 160,000 square feet with 4 outdoor fields, then a tennis and wellness academy, and then we're maintaining about 70 acres of land adjacent to that we will do for additional development, and we'll not only do sports, youth sports, but we'll also do ancillary stuff such as medical and wellness, which is a huge thing today too. So, yeah, it's pretty exciting. It's a really cool project. We were very lucky to get a large amount of land in the Northeast, which is very hard to do, and it allows us to do almost anything we want.
Okay. Tell us a little bit about when you got started and some of the other principles involved in it.
So I have two partners in it. One of my partners is a guy named Dave Boucher, and we own a company called 5 Capital Management, which is a diversified holding company that has real estate holdings, consulting holdings, and then we also have a financing arm that does commercial real estate consulting. And then my other partner is a gentleman named Stuart Silverberg, who is in New York. He has a company called Ajax Advisors. They're a large-scale commercial real estate firm, and the three of us are the principals on it. And then we have a ton of partners as far as on the tenant side, hockey partners, swim partners, etc., that will also be there. And some of them are joint ventures. Some of them are just leases where people lease out the space. And we facilitate the local and regional businesses, so they have a really world-class homes to run their businesses out of, which stimulates a lot of good to the economy in the local markets. And how long this took? Well, these things they're obviously not fast. We started this in September of 2013 when we signed a purchase and sale agreement to buy the land from the city of Attleboro. And we spent the first 14 months permitting and entitling the first 560,000 square feet of amenities. We spent over $1 million just on the entitlements, engineering, and design. And we just wound up putting our first building will be delivered in September, right around September 15th of this year, which will be the ice arena. We have the foundations, the walls are going in, the steel will be put up in 2 weeks, and then will come the aquatic center, which is in February. The hotel will be in May of next year, and then the outdoor fields and the field house will be October of next year. So by the end of 2017, we'll have roughly $53 million worth of brand new amenities on site, and then we'll decide what we want to do with the additional 70 acres over the next 2 to 3 years.
Yeah, this is fascinating. We're fixing to have to take a break here in a minute. But Chris, you and I have done a lot of stories on different facilities like this, but this is pretty extraordinary.
Yeah, I wanted to ask Joe, how did you come up with this concept? Because a lot of times, like Kevin said, we've done a lot of stories on different facilities and stuff, and it's usually a much smaller version
modest,
of this.
yeah.
It's like the field house, and maybe that part of it. In fact, most of the other training facilities are smaller than the field house.
Yep,
but
you guys are right on the money.
Where'd you get the idea to just say, hey, let's put it all in one?
It's really basic, right? Most good ideas just come from everyday life. And my partner and I have, we have 5 kids, and my other partner in New York has 4. They all play youth sports, and it came to the point where, like, my wife and I would say goodbye on Saturday morning. We'd get back together. She'd go one way with 2 of the boys. I'd go one way with the other, and we'd show up together at 9 o'clock on Saturday. Same thing on Sunday, and it became so crazy in all the travel, which I think has a lot to do with the technology and the ability for people to do cross marketing, but that we didn't have any time to really sit down as a family, and combine that with the way technology is kind of taken away from the ability to sort of have quality time in parents, things that parents really care about, but they also want their kids more competitive than ever to get the best training and the best opportunities in sports. So we thought about it. We said, man, if there was a way that we could just put all this stuff so that when my partner's son played hockey and his daughter wanted to do dance, they could do it at the same place. Mm-hmm. And so we came up with this concept, and we're not the first person to do it. There are 3 or 4 of these in the country that do it very well. And it just makes sense because, if you can go ahead and you can play sports, you can be in the same place, you can have your daughter one place, your son the other way, or one son one place. Maybe a son plays lacrosse, the other one plays baseball. If you can do it all in the same place, you have more time for family time, and then you can come together and you can put restaurants in there like we are, and you can enjoy a meal and you don't have to go crazy. It's just a quality of life issue. And then if you combine that with the fact that these things have to be rebuilt. Youth sports is not going away, particularly with the cost of college skyrocketing. A lot of parents look at youth sports, and I'm not sure I think it's the right way to look at it, but it's just the reality is that that they can get help financially if their kids are excel at athletics, mm-hmm. and it can they look at it more of an investment almost in the kids. Versus when I was growing up, where it wasn't necessarily the same, barriers financially on the college side. It's just amazing what's happened.
Joe Fitzpatrick, he is with the New England Sports Village. Find it online at nesportsvillage.com. And when we come back after the break, we will continue our conversation.